Hey guys, live from Nordic Fintech Week. I'm with someone who doesn't need any introduction. Lars Seier, welcome back actually.
Thank you.
So, what drives you? The investor hat, the entrepreneur's hat, the foundation, the blockchain tech hat. It's hard to read your bio, and I want you to tell your story. I'm interested in what drives you right now.
I think it's kind of all of the above, right? But I think still at heart I'm primarily an entrepreneur. Now, obviously, my exit from Saxo Bank gave me some investment opportunities as well, but I don't like to invest in boring stuff. I like to invest in stuff where either I'm directly involved, that's not so often, but where I can see that there's this entrepreneurial spirit and they want to change the world and they want to do something better and they want to conquer the whole world. I like the entrepreneurial spirit, so I would say I think first and foremost of myself as an entrepreneur, although I also have some investments but they're generally fun, like lifestyle and sports clubs and that. I'm not so big on traditional assets.
So I'm going to ask you a question that I would have asked anyway, even if I met you outside of a formal interview. I'm an investor as well, and I invest in emerging markets, particularly Africa. So there are more unicorns in Africa in the fintech space in the past 3 years than in the past 20. Are you interested by at any measure in emerging markets?
I am, but because of the nature of my investment, which is typically early stage, that can be a little bit unmanageable if it's very far from home. That being said, I have some family connections to Nigeria. I actually have a flat in Lagos, so we go there sometimes as a family. And last time I was there, I spent a considerable amount of time with the local fintech environment and the crypto environment, of course. And I was quite impressed at the level of innovation and a lot of interesting things going on, and actually a price level, investment valuations that are well below what we're used to in Europe, or let alone the US, right? So yes, I'm interested in it. In practical terms, it's a little bit hard to invest in something as far away as Lagos, I think. So I discussed down there with a couple of people maybe to put a little bit of money into a fund that would then manage some of the local things, because I do like to also stay in touch, occasionally meet with the things I invest in, because they are early stage. They maybe need more support than if you bought a Microsoft stock, right? So that's my problem with the area, that it's a little bit far away, but I was genuinely impressed with a lot of the young entrepreneurs I met in Lagos in various contexts, and we spent 4 or 5 days on that and went around and did some meetups and events and stuff. So I'm interested in it. It's a little hard to invest in, but and I would probably prefer to go the fund route there, that somebody local invested some money on my own behalf, right?
So when you have seen it all, and if it's not all, I mean a large part of it, how important is the give back, in terms of sharing your experience with other entrepreneurs, having a little bit of maybe a more patient capital in terms of the way you invest, your own personal opinion on impact investing?
I think if you look at the role you play as an investor in various companies, I try not to be too close to people, because I actually invest in the people first and foremost, right? If you invest in a new idea, you know that idea is going to pivot a few times before it hits the mark, or maybe it never hits the mark, right? And if the people are good enough, they can go through that transition. If they're self-reliant enough and they're flexible enough to actually adjust with a changed market condition or changed market fit, I like to leave them room to actually live out their own dreams, because it's not nice to have an investor around constantly telling you what to do and making life difficult for you. If they want some sparring, if they want to share some ideas and hear my feedback on them, I'm very happy to do so. If I can think of something in my network which is a benefit from investing, I probably have well in excess of 50 companies in my portfolio. Sometimes you see some angles where two companies could actually make use of each other, and if that kind of situation occurs, I try to put them together. So in that sense, I'm not that hands-on, but I'm available, right? When you talk about impact investment, you're talking about specific specific areas of investment, or?
Yeah, like financial inclusion, for example, or financial literacy, or maybe investing in startups that have a larger impact in terms of fintech for good, as an example. I'm just curious about your view.
I think you have to be a little bit careful with investing for good if you're not also investing sensibly and in a way that there's a market, right? Because then you're moving into the charity space, and that's a completely different kettle of fish. We do some of that, but I don't think you should necessarily mistake charity for investment or the other way around, right? Now, is it a positive if a company adds good to the world, and certainly at least not detracts from the world? Absolutely. But I don't think it should be your primary driver for investment decisions, because then I actually don't think you do the project very much good, and I don't think you do your investments very much good. Financial inclusion, I think, is an interesting topic. Traditional banks like to have customers, right? When people in large areas of the world are not financially included, it's actually not because the banks don't want them. It's because some of the hurdles for them to inside a regulatory compliant environment to actually onboard them is not really in any proportion to the possible business case. So in a way, I think in some of these areas you should probably look at having slightly lower regulatory requirements so it's easier to onboard people, and in a way that's what crypto solves in its own way. But that also, with my background, I have to think compliance. I do not want to run a project that is non-compliant or creates opportunities for people to behave in non-compliant ways. So it's all these people that don't have access to the banking industry is actually largely because it's so hard to onboard them for the traditional industry. It's not because Saxo Bank or Jyske Bank or Danske Bank don't want them as customers. It's just too complex in comparison to the actual business model. So maybe that's more what you should address than necessarily looking for other people to fix it, right? But it is, of course, one of the values of something like Bitcoin. You can see that in very challenged areas where you have little or no financial infrastructure, you have little or no little financial inclusion, you have collapsing currencies. That's where it appeals a little bit. Or you have your young people abroad earning money for the family, sending it back, getting killed by some of the Western Union-style transfer services. I mean, crypto actually serves a real purpose. In the first world, it's a little bit more, speculation, nice to have. But in the third world, I think those particular issues are to some extent solved by crypto. But unfortunately, in ways that are not always compliant with the way we normally would do financial services, and hence a closed area for me. I don't want to be involved in things that are not compliant. I grew up in banks, and there you learn that things have to be compliant.
Lars, it was a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thanks.